what?
Fancy.
Oh, hello, everyone, and welcome to the Three Docs Book Club podcast. And I am with Dr. Sheila Shepard and Dr. Helga Venus. And we welcome you to this week's book. So how have y'all been doing this week?
Well, we just read a wonderful book, so we've been doing great.
Yes. This is one book to read. As a matter of fact, that's really going on the top of my list.
Mine too. I only have one regret, which the power of regrets.
The power of regrets.
I feel like I should have gotten a paper copy of it. I will have to get a paper copy of this book.
Yeah, it's well worth it.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah. For sure.
And he has a second book on Stoicism, which is probably worth acquiring.
Interesting.
Okay, well let's just get into this then, and let me share our screen. And the cool thing about this program is that we are able to show the slides as we go through. And let me just jump back. I don't need mine. I want to go to Dr. Shepard. Dr. Shepard, you're starting us off. Okay, so today, Stoic Challenge, William Irvine is the author. This is episode 9. Whoop, whoop. And so here we go. Dr. Shepard.
All right. Well, if you have not had the pleasure of reading this book, it talks about setbacks and how we can use those as Stoic tests and not view it as a problem. So it's all about how you view things that happen to you in your life. And so a couple of the discussion points I wanted to talk about was he talked about negative visualization, which I thought was really good. Appreciating what you have by briefly imagining its loss and fostering that gratitude and reducing anxiety. And, that's just a really profound way of taking in everything that you have, be it tangible or emotional or social, and really giving it gratitude and imagining if you've lost it, where would you be, basically. He also talked about the 5-second reframing rule, which was discussing, if something happens, just take 5 seconds and, count to 10. Or at one point, he even mentioned if it's something really big, well, count to 100, which I thought he gave a lot of really good analogies. I wrote down several analogies. He talked about several different things, but like I said, it was a really great book. He also talked about voluntary discomfort. So kind of like taking a cold shower, wanting to put yourself in a little bit of a vulnerable state so that you can handle vulnerable things. You can handle consequences and issues later on in life, just to kind of build yourself up. If you take a cold shower every day, then it's not as cold probably that third or fourth day, or you're expecting that, that third or fourth day, you're expecting the feeling of it. So it's not as intense, which I thought was a really great way to manage challenges. He talked about anchoring, which is learning to accept and appreciate your present situations and blessings without becoming anxious or potential future loss, so really living and being in the moment. He also talked about accepting external circumstances, which he referred to as the dichotomy of control. And so, accepting what's already can happen in life and being okay with that. And that can help you get through any situation that you may run across, or most situations you may run across. So I thought he just had some really good points that we could all truly use in any aspect of my life. Because when I was reading this book, I started thinking about my work life. I started thinking about my social life. I even started thinking about my health at one point when he talked about the lazy self. And I thought, well, that's me health-wise sometimes. So so many different aspects of this book. I thought it was really great.
So when you were talking about the negative visualization, was that where you said, ask yourself, what's the worst that could happen?
Yes, ma'am. That's exactly right. That's exactly right. And sometimes, as my husband and I were just talking about that the other day. We were going through some change in our life, and I came to him a little anxious, and he said, "What's the worst that could happen?"
Yeah.
Well, I mean, this, that, the other. And he said, "So that's not really that bad, because now you're expecting that and you can easily move forward." And it literally just lifts the weight off of you once you think about the worst that can happen. It's not that we're manifesting the worst that can happen. It's just we're realizing the worst that could happen and moving forward through that and thinking the worst that could happen doesn't require that much anxiety most of the time, at least in my life. So
Right.
really, really good points that Mr. Irvine brought up in the book.
Yeah, I like that too. And that really hit home for me, because a lot of times I feel unprepared, and I don't like that feeling of not being, going into a situation, not being prepared. So it's nice to just take a beat, think about, okay, what's the worst that could happen, but also, what's the best that could happen? What are you looking to get out of the situation? Exactly. And that was pretty cool too. I liked that.
Absolutely.
Kind of standing back and looking objectively at something.
Right.
Yes, and whenever you get, I do that a lot. Whenever I think, oh man, this is just so bad, and try and go down that road, woe with me, then I go, well, you know what? Think about what other people go through, what other people, what they just faced, natural disasters, house burned down, house floated away, and worse things. So no, you don't have it bad, you still have a roof over your head, you still, you have a job, you can, there's nothing that you deal with that's this bad. Compared to other people all over the world.
Exactly.
So, that helps me come back to reality and think, nah, you're not feeling sorry for yourself. Not going to happen.
Right.
Good.
I think one of the things that I came across also was a small list. I'm sure there are several other benefits. This is just a very short list of the benefits of this book. I think this book has lots of benefits, but just a few of them are to mention, increased resilience. So becoming tougher, kind of like you were just saying, Dr. Venus. Also finding that greater joy and thinking about embracing those challenges, which that sounds such like an oxymoron to me, to embrace a challenge. But after reading his book, he's absolutely right, because it's a learning process.
Yeah, and what's the other option?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And you can always learn from challenges or setbacks. Oftentimes I've heard of setbacks being referred to as a setup for success, and so I kept thinking of that when I was reading through this book. He talked about equanimity and calmness, and being able to master your reactions to life's ups and downs, which I thought was really, really poignant as well. Like I said, this book had so many points. He talked about obstacles and, making that build your character and bringing that personal growth in. And one of the things I thought was really interesting about this book is it had a lot of, to me, it had a lot of spiritual reflection. I did a lot of spiritual reflection through this book, and the author did a great job of balancing for any type of believer. And I thought that was really, really great, and actually very intelligent of him to do that, because sometimes books that I've read in the past can go on this spiritual path, which is fine for me, and it continues to manifest in that way. So a non-believer might not appreciate the book as much. But this book was very equally balanced to me with that. And that was one of the most, it was just the most intelligent and brilliant things that he did, was the way he really balanced that for, because that will reach anybody, it wouldn't offend anybody. And he did it in such a delicate way that I really just had a really great connection with this book.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah, I like the whole idea with philosophy is just trying to discover what is truth. And so that kind of opens it up to discuss different kinds of truths that people believe. And that's not offensive. If you can look at something and just hold the thought in your brain and think about it a little bit, it doesn't mean you're going down a very dangerous path or anything like that. I don't think. It's just thinking about things.
Yeah. And on that same point, Dr. Jackson, one of the things I was thinking about before we started recording today is that there has been so much in the news of national disasters, things happening to students recently, and all those kinds of things. And I think if people would just pick up a book like this, because a lot of times some of those things, especially that are happening to students and other people in our world, you know, a lot of the people that are behind some of that, those tragedies, have some issues, have maybe some mental issues that they're going through, or some mental toughness that they need to develop. And I just feel like a book like this could maybe even change somebody's life in a positive way, where they may be going down a dark path in their life, and it really could change their life. I was thinking about that as I was finishing up the book today, and thinking, gosh, I wish certain people had really read and latched onto a book like this, because I think some of the things, the evil things that have happened in our world, could be turned around.
Absolutely. And I wanted to add something to the 5-second rule, because he's making a point, because he said, as opposed to Thomas Jefferson, who also had count to 10, count to 100, but for him, that was damage control, versus our author, Mr. Irvine, it's damage prevention.
Yes.
What he's after.
Yes. Totally. It kind of to almost the opposite, but in a really great way.
Yes.
No. I totally agree. And then I came across this kind of word picture that I just couldn't not include it today, because I look at the words on this slide that all have to deal with Stoicism, and before I had read this book, I probably would have seen some of these words as maybe a little negative, and now you can see the positivity in all of these words. And so I just thought, you know, it's interesting how a book can just change your inner thoughts. And so I wanted to just kind of include that. There's so many words there that lots of them are actually utilized in our book that we read this time.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
And I just, and I love the vocabulary that's in this book. And I also just love that, you know, how my mind has shifted to, well, adversity is not that bad. You know, adversity actually can open up your mind and get you to thinking about how other people feel, or discipline is not that bad. We actually have to have some control. You know, just any of the random words here that may have been seen to me earlier as slightly negative have now kind of changed, because I'm kind of thinking of Mr. Irvine's book.
That's right. And I see one of the ones that popped out at me is resilience.
Yes.
Which is, you know, our first book we talked about. So it was Grit by Angela Duckworth. So for me, there was a connection there with grit, because the Stoics never said, you know, go through problems and, you know, feel sorry about yourself or whatever. And the resilience is just continuing on, you know, not wallowing, but looking forward and continuing on, which connected for me.
Yeah, this is a great book. I'm hoping we don't have to rank these in order of our favorite at the end. I don't know. I'd have like 15 favorites.
We're gonna have to do a tier list. That's a good thing.
Very. So this book is really, I would suggest our viewers definitely buy a paper copy of this book. It is awesome.
Yes. Yeah. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Something to refer to.
For sure.
You need to.
Exactly.
Okay, Dr. Venus, you're up.
So okay. Let's see what Daniel Pink says. So reading this book can help you do a better job of reframing adversity, frustration, and setbacks in your life, seeing them less as burdens you have to bear and more as opportunities to grow. The real game changer for him is the Stoic test. When something bad happens, you have 5 minutes of reframing it as a test. Imagine that the Stoic gods are testing you. They are testing you, your ingenuity, your creativity, and your resilience. If you can meet that test, you can do better than before. And it's just what you've been discussing, all of that we've just been discussing. That's how it struck him too. So we can wholeheartedly agree with him on that point. So resilience, in the book, it's defined as we cannot always control what happens in our lives, but what we can control is what we do with what happens. So that really, we discussed it before. That's really a sentence. I want to put that on my desk or on my wall. This to me is just an excellent quote.
Right. And it could, if we worry about what we can't control, then we have to carry that with us forever.
Yep.
You know, you can never put that down because you think you're controlling it still. And
Right.
it's just as exhausting.
Yeah, don't worry about things you can't control.
Yeah,
Like,
absolutely.
you know, you can't control the weather, but you can do something about it. You can become knowledgeable what's going on, what might happen when it comes,
Mhm.
and what you need to do.
Exactly.
And get out of the rain.
Yes, they are. Rain, or if you love it, put a raincoat on.
Yeah, and go dance.
Okay. Embracing failure is what you said, Dr. Shepard, means to acknowledge your failure. Don't pretend like you haven't failed. Acknowledge it and learn from your failures. A failure response strategy is to think of failures as obstacles, not setback. And ever since I read that, anytime someone talks to me about setbacks and how awful things are, I just say small bump in the road. Think of what you can do.
You know, this one reminds me of in the book where he talks about, you know, all of the different jobs or companies that have failed and are now very successful.
Yeah.
And I've heard those things mentioned before. I'm sure we all have heard how many times certain companies have tried to do certain things. But the one thing I did not think about when he said this was the tech industry. Probably because I'm techie.
Oh, yeah.
Why? But he mentioned how often the tech companies fail, and it really is a stepping stone for their next success for sure, because they have to kind of see things fail because customers will see those, or end users will see those things fail. And so they have to kind of build so things won't crash on them or won't fail. And I never thought about how many obstacles that the tech industry probably has, and look how successful they are.
And that's how we move forward, trial and error. That's how kids play, trial and error. You can't get frustrated about it.
Yes, that is that. I thought that was a really good just wait, that was just something that I'd never thought of, and it was a good point that you brought.
Absolutely. Failing forward is something we hear a lot too. So if you fail, just fail forward and learn from it and move on.
And speaking of technology, that's how, you're trying to learn something new. For example, I was trying to figure out 2 other means of recording and making a video. And it's not easy, but if you just give up and never try, you'll never know whether you can be successful at it.
That's true.
And if you stick with it, you never know how far it can take you.
Yeah.
How far that it could grow into a whole company or grow into a new idea, or, it could be really wonderful for humankind. So.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So don't let fear hold you back. I like that. All right. I liked the framing of setbacks. There were several different frames that were mentioned in the book. And that determines how we react and carry our feelings about them. And so one of the game frame was interesting. If you look at some of your setbacks as if it were some kind of a game, then if you're playing a game of, let's say, football or something like that, and you fall down, you're not going to stay there and roll around the ground and just feel sorry for yourself. You just get up. It's part of the game, right? So I just thought that's pretty good. It's the game of life, and sometimes we have setbacks. And of course, this is so easy for me to say. I'm like the biggest crier on the earth. But if you can not necessarily control, well, I guess, yeah, you control your feelings and don't just let them out when you do have a setback. And also I liked, if you can bring yourself to laugh at the things that make most people cry, you have a powerful weapon to use against life's adversities.
Yes.
And
That reminds me of the, he opens with talking about the airport, and then he closes with talking about the airport.
Yeah.
I love at the end of this book and I don't want to give too much of it to the viewers, but when he talks about the closure of it, and he's just like, huh, is that all you got? It makes you chuckle because it's like everybody's been to the airport and seen all the stress that goes on there. And for him to just let it roll, it was just, and he had major setbacks, in my opinion, at the airport.
Oh my gosh. Yes. I was thinking, oh no. And then what happened? And then what happened?
I know.
Yeah. We know real fast.
Exactly.
And, this reminded me too, the game frame reminded me of thinking in bets, the players that get frustrated. They're playing a game, you're playing a game, and you get frustrated because you can't win. So, and that's what she was talking about. The author Angela Duckworth was talking about that. You cannot get frustrated. You gotta think about your next move.
Right.
So,
right.
Absolutely.
I like that. That was a good throwback to that thinking in bets.
Yeah. Let's see. So when you experience a setback, you're faced with not one challenge, but two, actually. And the second challenge, which is preventing a flood of negative emotions. It's usually more critical than the first. So it's the emotions that come after something that happens. And that's where I think take the 5-second rule or the 5-minute rule, or however many minutes you need to get yourself under control, because the result of the emotions is what you carry with you.
Exactly.
And so that's the harm that's done by our emotions. If we allow them to be triggered, is the biggest cost associated with the setback. That's also,
and that's kind of what I was leading to with some things happening in our world is right there. It can trigger something to go and bring it back.
Yeah, and how easy it is to go down that road, to feel sorry for yourself and go, oh man, I can't believe that happens. That happened to me, and not even thinking about a solution. Well, how are you gonna get up from that?
Right.
So
true.
That's what struck me, and I thought about, he's talking about make a list of setbacks. And write how you handled them. What did you do to figure out how to turn it into something positive, or to fix it, or did you just, woe is me?
Yeah.
Fix it.
And if you're saying woe is me, you might still be living in that situation. It may not be fixed.
Yeah,
absolutely.
You don't learn from your mistakes.
Right.
I thought twice about that, keeping a journal of the setbacks, and I was thinking, wow, that doesn't sound very good.
I wrote about 3 down. I had a long list too, but I wrote about 3 setbacks down that I now just look at. Well, it's just a bump in the road. So not that important. I can fix it.
Yeah, and that's what I think is pretty good. When you do keep a journal or something, you look back, and things that you thought were setbacks aren't really,
right.
They're not as bad as they feel at the time.
Exactly. Yeah, we used to think things were at the end of the world, and then it's
that. That's right. Yeah. If only I could have seen what today is holding. Oh my goodness. Anything else we've forgotten? So what is the Stoic test for our listeners?
The Stoic test.
Go ahead, Dr. Venus.
I have to find it because I can't quote it.
That has been, okay,
If you have it, go ahead.
we mentally characterize a situation
There, now I found
as if it has a profound effect or how we respond to it emotionally. That's what I wrote down here. I hope it's semi-accurate.
Let me see. I think it consists of several stages. The Stoic test is you're, like Daniel Pink said, you're thinking of the Stoic gods are testing you. So you start coming up with first of all, try to avoid that it's turning into something negative. Start immediately reacting and thinking about how can this just be a slight bump in the road, and how can you come up with a workaround to whatever test it is they're throwing in your way. So that to me, and then as part of it is also the 5-second rule. So the Stoic test to me consists of a number of parts. Is first recognizing that you're being tested, or framing it as a test, and not saying, oh my God, this happened to me, so well, that's a test, and he went about that. And then what can you do about it? Well, I can't, the airplane won't fly, so I'm gonna go and replace my time with something better, with something different, until I can get where I need to be going. So and you're much happier because you just come up with a replacement for what you thought you lost.
Mm-hmm. And that replacement might be something positive or make you feel better inside, or the people you're around, because that positivity, then you're filled with positivity instead of the negative energy that makes everyone, you hear someone gripe, it makes you feel a little gripey,
And he talks about that. He says now there's two people who are frustrated, not just one, because we reel the other person in to our negativity, and they're bystanders, so usually don't know how to react, and the best strategy they think is to feel sorry for you and pat you on the back and agree with you, and now they feel bad too.
Right. Yeah, I like that. That's pretty cool. I was just listening to a psychologist this morning, and she was saying that within 15 feet, if you hear someone negative, their negative energy will affect how you think, and that you'll have kind of a negative bend to what your thoughts are. Whereas if you surround yourself with people who are positive and have good energy and have a positive outlook, and kind of like using that game frame, things like that. Well, how do we figure this? How do we solve this? That it just lightens up the room.
Yes.
And that's awesome.
And I found that in the military a lot. So the most charismatic leaders, when there's a problem coming up, we don't go, oh man, and get all angry and mad, and because it didn't work out as planned. They just go, well, let's regroup. What can we do? Any ideas? So,
and that's, to me, that's really the smartest way to be as a leader, especially in the military, because you're training for war. Yeah. So if you're actually in a war and someone is complaining and saying, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe that happened," you need to figure out another solution. Not dwell on that. Lives are at stake at that point, or could be.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely. Karen has a nice comment. She agrees with the 3 docs discussion points. She enjoys reading. Her choice of genre is mystery, but I do enjoy these weekly book discussions. Hey,
thank you.
Thank you so much. Docs, do you think that we'll ever get to fiction and mystery?
We might.
Yeah.
That'd be kind of cool.
Just scratch the surface of this 3 doc book club.
Well, mystery, yes.
Yes.
Yeah, we'll work in something so that everyone agrees.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I really appreciate this time. I enjoy it. And as we develop more and get a little more practiced, I think that we'll move right on forward with this. And I enjoy this book club with you guys.
Time sure flew by.
It did. It did.
We need to tell our readers what our next book is.
Yes, the
And
sports.
that is The Sports Gene by David Epstein.
Okay. The sports gene. I don't know if I was born with that gene.
Sports gene, yeah. I don't know that I have an answer for sports gene either.
I don't think I do either, especially after Mr. Irvine just allowed me to realize that I have a lazy self. I don't think I'm sports genius. I don't think I'm both. I'm probably the lazy self.
Yeah.
There we go. There we go. Awesome. Well, thank you again. And I look forward to our next talking episode. It'll be episode 10. Woo!
Yes,
Yeah.
double digits.
Wow.
That's awesome. And it might be later on is when the original, but there will also always be a replay. And thank you, everyone, the listeners, future listeners. We appreciate if you share this. And you're still able to make comments, and we will respond.
Yes.
So thank you so much, everyone. And I guess we'll see you later.
All right. Bye-bye.